Welcome back to Selling Your Business with David King. I'm David King, and today we have the immense pleasure of being joined by Craig Kilborn. Welcome, Craig.
Nice to see you, David.
Craig needs no introduction. His career spans a variety of different television and sports media productions. He's hosted late night. He's even made some appearances in movies. My podcast is focused on selling a business, entrepreneurs who make an exit from their business. So variety is the spice of life. And in addition, Craig's career in TV and entertainment is one to make that decision to go down that path where the odds are so heavily stacked against you, and to devote yourself to a career like that. That's a decision that takes a lot of courage, Craig. And it also takes a lot of courage for entrepreneurs to go out and start a business. The odds are heavily against them. Likewise, it takes a lot of courage to make the decision to leave a successful business or depart from a career like yours after succeeding. So you fit in perfectly, and you're the model of faith and courage that it takes for people to succeed in business. Congratulations.
Thank you, David. And also congratulations on getting me as a guest. I don't know how you did it, but the gift basket is amazing. Thank you for that. I assume everyone gets a gift basket.
Wonderful. So, Craig, you've had an incredible life. This may not be as interesting or as storied as, say, Dennis Miller's interview of Joe Dirt. If you've ever seen that movie, that's an incredible interview.
I've not seen that movie, but I do know those people who wrote it and Spade and Miller, those guys. Yes.
Yeah. Very funny movie. So anyway, starting with your youth, you were raised in the great state of Minnesota. You were a basketball player in your youth.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about that.
My father was from the East Coast. He was born in Queens. He went to Teaneck High School and then Rutgers University. My mom was from Olathe, Kansas. My dad took a job transfer from New Jersey to Hastings, Minnesota in late 60s, like 67, 68. I was right before kindergarten. And my father chose Hastings. It's a small town of 12,000 right on the Mississippi, 20 minutes south of St. Paul. And he chose that. He wanted us to grow up in kind of a small town. We could have lived in St. Paul. But as my brother Chris and I say, we had the happiest childhood. We didn't know it was the coldest state in the United States. But my dad was very funny. My mom was a school teacher who was a tall, beautiful woman who played piano. She taught piano, and she was a nice lady. And my dad was, some people have described him as a Steve Allen type. Very clever, very funny. Interestingly, he wanted both my brother and I to play baseball because he was a Willie Mays fan. But we couldn't, I wasn't very good. I threw the ball. I couldn't really throw a baseball. He put up a basket in our driveway. When I was in second grade, my brother was 3 years ahead. He was in fifth grade, and that's when basketball started. So my brother started playing in fifth grade, and I started playing in second grade. And I was just good from the beginning. I was coordinated, and I could dribble, and basketball came naturally to me. And I also remember my childhood was comedy and basketball. I loved watching The Honeymooners. Then there was Monty Python, a show called Fernwood Tonight. And this is all before, I think, 1976 when Saturday Night Live started. So that's my childhood was basketball and comedy, and it's still kind of that way now in my adult life, you know.
Were you raised on Finn and Ole jokes? Do you remember those from Minnesota?
I remember that name, but I don't know the details about them.
Oh, okay. My friends from Minnesota tell me some Finn and Ole jokes. They're pretty clever. So you played a fair amount of basketball. By chance, did you play basketball ever after you became, got into entertainment, did you ever play with Minnesota's other great entertainer who's a good basketball player, Prince? Did you ever play ball
No,
with Prince?
I actually never met Prince, but in ninth grade, I played up in North Minneapolis where he was from. I played with a basketball team that they all kind of ended up going. Marshall was the school he went to, high school, but I never met him. One of the basketball players later worked for him that I used to play with. But I'm a big Prince fan, and I remember telling people, some of us who know music think he has the best Super Bowl halftime show ever. So
we lost him way too soon.
yeah,
That was a tragic loss. We've had a lot of those lately.
very unfortunate.
Entertainers, yeah. So then you were recruited by a number of different schools. You were asked to play for Montana State, and I assume you said, yeah, sure, you betcha.
Ha ha ha. My dad gave me that home run call when I was at ESPN. You betcha. When we were doing different home run calls. I got recruited. Mike Montgomery, who was at the University of Montana, was in my living room. He later went to Stanford and Cal. A guy named Norm Stewart, who was the coach at Missouri, was in my living room. When I say in my living room, these are the coaches that actually visited. A guy named Jim Dutcher, of the University of Minnesota, came to the living room. And Montana State, they recruited me the hardest. And I was going to play two guard. And they also recruited a guy named Jeff Epperly, who's a friend of mine, and he was the best player in Montana. And he was supposed to go to the University of Montana, but we both went to Montana State, so we kind of overlapped, and he got to play more. He was a great athlete, kind of like a Rex Chapman. And I was a very pure shooter and the best passer on the team. And then jokingly, I was disinterested in defense, David. I was too creative to think about playing defense. It hurt my back to get in the defensive stance. So I was an offensive wizard, a little bit like Pistol Pete Maravich.
Wonderful, wonderful. Any chance of playing in the NBA, or was that just?
No, I wasn't that good. I joked that I didn't like to travel. I don't like to fly, which is true, but that's why I didn't play in the NBA. But no, I did get a chance. This is kind of funny. I played out of college. I played on this American team that toured in Europe, and we had a few games. We flew into they flew into Geneva, and I flew into Stuttgart into Germany because I had a good price on a plane ticket, $200 round trip from San Francisco to Stuttgart, and this was in 1985 or 86. And I just remember we played these. We went to Paris, we went to Germany, and I just remembered that because I was flying out of Stuttgart and everyone else flew out of Germany, a local team in Luxembourg offered me to play on their team because you're allowed one American. This was the Luxembourg, very small country, and it was a professional league, and you're allowed one American. And they were going to give me, so much money per month, a free food and a free apartment, and then pay me some money. And I said to the guy, "You've never seen me play. You didn't see the games we just played. You just came to town and heard I was here." He said, "You're an American. You'll average 27 a game." But I turned it down because I wanted to get back to the United States, and I wanted to start trying to get a job in television. So I turned it down. I wish I would have played 1 year in Luxembourg. That would have been a blast.
That would have been fun. You'd have been right near Holland, which is an interesting country. I lived there for about 6 months, and it's a neat place. It's fun to live outside of the United States for a while, even if it's a brief period. So after Montana State, you got into sportscasting. You went to Savannah first, I believe.
Wow, good research. Yeah, I would. They used to have the it's called the CBA, the Continental Basketball Association, and they had a team in Savannah, Georgia, called the Savannah Spirits, and I was the radio play-by-play guy. And so I drove cross country, went there. They paid me very little, lived in a small place, but it was a fun experience. And the head coach at the time was a writer turned coach named Charlie Rosen. Charlie Rosen is still a prolific basketball writer. He's very good friends with Phil Jackson. And Phil Jackson was the coach of the Albany Patroons when I was in the CBA as the radio guy for the Spirits. And that was one season, and it was a blast. A lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Sounds like it. And being a big basketball fan, how well did you get to know Phil Jackson? Did you know that he was going to go on and be such a great coach?
No, it was interesting. I got to know him, and I actually got to interview him on my CBS show. And I find him to be a very interesting guy. And I also, when I first discovered basketball and watching it on television, because my dad was from New York, New Jersey, he liked the Knicks, and Phil Jackson was on those championship teams with Walt Frazier was my first favorite player before I discovered Dr. J. But that Knick team with Bill Bradley and Dave DeBusschere and Willis Reed and Earl Monroe, and Phil Jackson came off the bench. So I always liked the Knicks, and I got to, in the CBA, I hung out with Phil and Charlie, and I also interviewed Phil. And then years later, I got to interview him. The interesting thing is, when he was in the CBA, he won with the Albany Patroons, and you can be a college coach, which he didn't. My understanding is I don't think he wanted to, because the college coaches have to recruit all the time, high school players all the time, because they don't stay there for 4 years. And he preferred coaching in the NBA. For some reason, he couldn't get an NBA job. And my understanding was, I was told he might just go back to college and teach. And then fortunately, the Bulls hired him as an assistant. Jerry Krause hired him as an assistant. And then the rest is history. But he was successful in the CBA, but couldn't get a job in the NBA for a long time as a coach.
Well, good thing that somebody gave him a chance, because he sure made the best of it. Yeah. And then after Savannah, I think you moved out to California, somewhere in the Bay Area.
Yeah, that was my start. I eventually got a job in local TV in Salinas, Santa Cruz, Monterey, which is the 110 market. The markets are numbered. New York is 1, LA is 2. I think Chicago is 3, San Francisco is 4. But this was 110 down in Salinas, Santa Cruz, Monterey. But it also was the most beautiful market, because I lived in Carmel, and I commuted 35 minutes into Salinas, and I got to do local sports and a lot of comedy there. And the tape I put together got me the job at ESPN.
Was Clint Eastwood mayor of Carmel when you were around, or
not when I was there? But he owned the town. He's the legend.
Yeah. Okay.
So I was there in 89 to 92. He was mayor in 86 or so. But I remember walking through Carmel at night, and there's a restaurant there. It used to be Jack London's, which had a couple locations. But he was just in there reading with his friends, and it was like, there he is. But I did interview him at Pebble Beach for the station. They used to have, when they have the Celebrity Pro-Am, they have a celebrity shootout. And this is when Jack Lemmon was still with us, and he was there, and I interviewed Clint. And then years later, he did my show on CBS. So it was really cool.
Did you, when you were doing the local work, did you ever have the feeling, I'm destined for the bigger leagues, I'm destined to be on networks? Or, I mean, I guess cable, sports news probably hadn't even become a big thing then. Did you have a hunch you were going to make it bigger?
It's a great question. I don't know. I know I was driven in my 30s. I was very driven, which I'm not now, but I mean, a little bit now, but Uh, People at the station in Salinas, it was called KCVA. There was a one lady, she was a news reporter and anchor, and she said, "You're going to do Saturday Night Live. You're really funny." And I said, "I'm not going to do Saturday Night Live." I think in the back of my mind, I know in college I said I want to do a talk show or a sitcom because I liked it was fun to be creative that way. It just there's an energy from being funny, and I thought, there's only one talk show. It was Johnny Carson, and then later Letterman came. So the odds are against that. So I'd probably do a sitcom, but I didn't. I don't know. My boss there, named Paul Miller, and his wife Kirsty Wilde, his then wife, they both said, "Oh, you're gonna go places. You're gonna go places." But I don't know. I don't know what I thought was going to happen. I know I wanted to do something comedically. Yes.
But your big break came, and it was ESPN. You were on SportsCenter for a number of years. How did that happen? Who spotted you, and how did you get the job with ESPN?
I had a tape. It was really hard to get an acting agent or sitcom agent, comedy agent down in LA. And I had this funny tape from Monterey where I was playing bocce ball with the locals, the Italian fishermen down in Monterey. And I was going to the Gilroy Garlic Festival. And I had this comedic tape, and I had an idea for some kind of sports comedy thing. I sent a tape to an agent in New York, and they represented Chris Berman, and they sent it to ESPN. And then went out for an audition, didn't even do that well on the audition because it was the technical aspect of trying to write up the show and get the graphics. But they liked me, and they hired me, and it worked out.
Wonderful. ESPN has a lot of funny guys.
Oh yeah.
It's not just, sports, but Chris Berman, I think he's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who do you think are the other most funny individuals who are?
Well, I always thought Kenny Mayne had a great sense of humor. He was very, I don't know if you know Kenny, but he is very, very funny. And Berman was fun with all the nicknames. And then Keith and Dan were very, very clever. I'm sure I'm missing people because I was only there 3 years. But the thing you have to remember is on SportsCenter, the games we were doing were over. We were doing highlights of games that were over. So we tried to dress them up and have some fun, obviously.
Well, I know you're a huge NBA fan, but me personally, I'm from the South, and so college sports are everything, particularly college football. One of the top 10 list, the number one thing you'll never hear a redneck say is, "I really don't have a favorite college football team." No, we all love college football. And then when I went from University of Florida to the University of North Carolina when I went to law school, and we went from a football school to a basketball school. But then when I was at the University of North Carolina, that's when Billy Donovan came along, and Florida surpassed North Carolina. Were you much of a college sports fan?
I was never, and this disappoints my dad, I was never a college football fan. And I did follow college basketball when I was growing up, but both the NBA and the NFL take up so much of my time. So what I do with college football is right before the NFL draft, I start to research guys like who the Minnesota Vikings might take. And a couple of years ago, this guy named Dalvin Cook played down in Florida. I called my dad and I said, "Hey, this guy may drop to the Vikings in the second round." And he goes, "Oh, that guy's amazing." So I know, and then I look at their college highlights. That's my college football. And even with the college basketball, because the NBA I try to be a little more well-balanced. I watch a lot of movies and television shows and old movies. So pro basketball took up too much of my time growing up. So I balance it now, but I don't have time for college basketball or college football until the draft when I want to research certain players.
Dalvin Cook actually played for Florida State, the Seminoles, and by chance, I haven't followed him much with the Vikings. Has he ever developed a fumbling problem with the Vikings? Does he?
No.
Okay. Then you got lucky.
Because, there are issues. I think that may have been a thing. He's got to make sure he takes care of the ball. I don't know if you know this, because Adrian Peterson had an issue with fumbling. So a lot of people don't know that. I was telling my friend who follows the NFL, he goes, he does. I go, yeah, he would fumble. So he would fumble. Adrian would fumble. And he was a great running back. No, Dalvin, I mean, he's protected the ball. Occasionally it happens, obviously, but he's worked on it. Good question. Because it's one of those things where they say when they're coming out, he's got to make sure he takes care of the ball,
Because he must have gotten them all out of his system in the second half of the Rose Bowl against Oregon. He dropped it 3 times and scored, Oregon, the way they could put up points back then. So anyway, I've always been a sports fan, particularly a college sports fan, and I know you're a huge NBA fan. Then came late night comedy, late night TV, and you were host of The Daily Show. And was The Daily Show new, with you newly launching it in 96?
Yeah, 1996. It was the politically incorrect show with Bill Maher was jumping to ABC. So back then in the 90s, there was a difference between cable and network, and now there's not really. So Comedy Central needed to come up with a show to replace it. And the president, Doug Herzog, had been pitched some ideas and he didn't want to do them, or he couldn't afford them, or they weren't quite right. And he came up with the idea of doing a working title Daily Show. We don't know what we're going to call it. They ended up calling it that. And it's going to be like SportsCenter. You got to watch it every day, but it's pop culture, current events. It's not limited to sports. And we want to get somebody like Kilborn to do it, because he was a Craig Kilborn fan. And so and then my agent, I didn't want to keep doing sports. I wanted to do comedy, and it just all worked out. My agent told him, hey, he wants to do this, transition. And so they gave me the gig, and I was there for the launch. And I was there for 3 years, and then I went to CBS.
And I understand the kind of the 4-minute spot with the guests that wasn't really to your liking. You wanted to be able to get in more depth with the people on your show. Is that a fair?
Yeah, it was like 3 different things. At the Daily Show, they didn't hire me first. So the people that were there inherited me, and I inherited them. And some of them were just wonderful. And others, it wasn't the right fit. But I also wanted to do I was a Johnny Carson fan, so I wanted to do a traditional hour show where you stand up and do a monologue. You're not doing a news parody. You interview the guests. Again, if I have Clint Eastwood on, I'm not going 4 minutes with him. In fact, some of the interviews in late night, some of the first guests might be 10 minutes. When I had Clint on CBS, I went the whole hour with him. I just kept tossing the break and saying, stay there, we'll be right back. And then and also I would never do a political heavy show. So, in the Daily Show, while they didn't hire me to do a political heavy show, some of the people there wanted to do it. And my point is, I'm not doing it. And if you do it, it's got to be around the voice of the host. It's got to be the political voice of the host. And I got the CBS gig, which was easily my favorite job. Also, I'm glad I got to live in New York for 3 years with the Daily Show, but I missed Los Angeles and California in general. So the CBS gig, I got to come back to California as well.
Did you enjoy living in New York?
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad I was able to do it. It wasn't. There's Have you lived there?
I lived in Hell's Kitchen for a couple of years. I actually worked in the World Trade Center, and
Oh,
I absolutely loved living in New York.
yeah.
You never have to make plans of what you're going to do. You just get up and do New
Right.
York, start strolling.
There are people that compare Los Angeles to New York, and I have friends that live in New York. And what I'll say is I understand that New York is the greatest city in the world. And there's a great quote from Seinfeld where he says, Manhattan's like a wonderful cocktail party. I'm glad I was invited because it's got that energy.
Hmm.
And of course, LA is the sunshine and the wall around your house with the pool. And that's what I prefer. I don't need, I don't need the energy of the people on me. I can hang out in my panel den or near the pool or whatever and have a good time. But I prefer California, but I'm glad I lived in New York.
Yeah, it's nice to have a little space. But even if the Daily Show had the political element to it, and the spots were fairly brief, I tell you though, the show bumped into a family business, my family business, or my godfather, my uncle. It was a business in Augusta, Georgia. And it was related to how they were being regulated by the state legislature in Atlanta. These fake teeth that make you look really ugly, it's
Yeah.
called Dr. Bucks. Anyway, they covered it. It's my Uncle Bub and my aunt's sister, and it was their business. And it showed kind of the silliness of the Georgia legislature to even hear these complaints about their ugly teeth. So it had a real impact, even though I'm sure this was just satire and poking fun. It was,
That's funny.
yeah,
That is
yeah,
hilarious.
yeah. What's that?
That's hilarious.
I know, it's a small world. It's a small world. So then the Late Late Show. And there's the big break you were looking for with CBS.
Yeah. I mean, there aren't that many spots. And that one came up. And I remember it was my favorite job. And it was 5 years, the longest I did a talk show. It was owned by David Letterman's production company. And I just had a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
How well did you know Letterman?
How well?
Yeah, how well did you know David Letterman?
Just a couple conversations. Yeah,
Okay.
what I understood very quickly, or even without having to be quick about it, I just knew he's busy. I'm busy. You're hosting a show. You're busy. So he's got to compete with Leno. And so he was nice, and he delegates to an executive in his production company to run the show, my show, or to oversee my show. So, but Letterman was fine.
Yeah, yeah. Did you ever know him to be funny in person?
Oh yeah, yeah. I talked to him a few times on the phone.
Yeah,
He said a couple funny things.
I can imagine.
Including using the word Jay Leno in this funny sentence.
Yeah, we loved him when I went to college because he's a Sigma Chi. By any chance, were you in a fraternity at Montana State?
No, I've been accused of using some frat boy humor, but as my writer friends who went to Columbia tell me, you're not frat boy humor. It's some kind of aristocratic, irreverent.
Well,
Yes.
yeah, it's a regional sort of thing. There's the South, the Greek system is a big deal. And I've undertaken the difficult challenge of hosting a host. And so one time I used to do a little bit of amateur boxing, and I was sparring with a guy one time who was new. So I didn't know what to tell him to do. I just said, look, just watch me and do what I do. So here's my stab at doing that. I'm not going to block jabs or anything, but I've got 5 questions for Craig.
Never
Kilborn.
happened before, David. No radio DJ across the country has ever done this to me.
Nobody's done it. Well, I see I'm clever. You got to give me credit here. So we'll start with the softball. And by the way, I got to prompt the studio sound here.
Oh, full production. This is production
Yeah.
value. That's chef.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Number one, before he played basketball for the Los Angeles Lakers, in what foreign country did Kurt Rambis play basketball?
I don't know, but I want to say Greece.
That is correct. You nailed it. And Kurt was also well known for his glasses. Have you ever gone into an optometrist and said, I'd like to see something in the Kurt Rambis section?
Those are I actually had some of those in junior high. They had the little rubber thing. And Kurt went to Santa Clara, the same college as Steve Nash. Okay, number
Nice.
2. I'm fired
Number
up.
2, which U.S. president has the best middle name?
I don't want to get in trouble here.
Yeah.
Millhouse is an interesting middle name.
I'm partial to Millhouse. I named my first Rottweiler Millhouse. He was the house dog, so definitely we're fans of Millhouse.
Is that what you were? Did you have one? Did you agree with Millhouse, or did you have a
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's no competition with Millhouse. All right, this one's going to be a challenge. How many Rocky movies did they make?
This will have to be a guess because I only saw one. So I'm going to say 4, 5, or 6. I have to decide which one. They didn't make 6, did they? So was it 4 or 5? I'll just say 5.
5, 8.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. After 5, they made another one called Rocky Balboa, and then they've had Creed and Creed 2. So
I want to say I'm happy I got that one wrong.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Here's another softball. What was Jeffrey Lebowski's beverage of choice?
Oh, I didn't see that movie. It's terrible. So it was a type of beer, wasn't it?
No.
I didn't. Sorry, I'm going to get in trouble. I do like the Coen brothers. A lot of their movies. I'm just going to list them. No, True Grit and what's the one that's really good with?
Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou? Or Fargo.
Yeah, no, that's the one with Bardem, Javier Bardem.
Okay.
I can't.
I'm drawing a blank on that one, but if you get a chance, watch The Big Lebowski. It's superb.
I know. I offend people when they hear what I haven't seen. They get really upset. What was the answer, by the way?
It's a White Russian. If you've been fond of those.
Yeah, I knew a girl that had a White Russian. It's got some cream in there, right? Yeah.
He's holding a White Russian the whole time. Okay.
Wait a second. No, this is exciting. I just want to see what it's called. No Country for Old Men. Is that it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Go right ahead. Question number 4.
No. This is 5.
Oh, this is 5.
Yes. So get bonus points on this one. On November 5th, 1994, who won the heavyweight boxing title?
Okay. I'm not good with years. I'm not going to. The first thing I'm saying, I don't remember when this was Buster Douglas, but that wasn't the right. It's not Buster Douglas, correct?
No. It's after Buster. A couple of years after Buster. Buster won it, beat Mike Tyson, first person to ever beat Mike Tyson, then immediately lost it. This was, I'll give you a hint, a major comeback.
Oh, I know this one. Okay, I'm drawing a blank here. Let me just think here. Oh, can you give me the initials?
He's got 4 sons with the same name.
It's not George Foreman. No.
It's George Foreman.
Really?
George Foreman at the age of 45.
That's right. Wow.
A heavyweight title.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was one of the most amazing comebacks in sports history. 45-year-old heavyweight champion. So this is a segue back to you here. George Foreman, you're going to have to pack on a few pounds here. But people have got to be wondering, when are we going to have a cooking device with Craig Kilborn's name on it? When are we going to be able to cook something in the Craig Kilborn?
I haven't thought of that yet, because my wife and I, she's a costume designer, and we think about sometimes, do we want to make Lord Kilby blazers or polo shirts? But our energy is not always there, and so I'm not even close to thinking of a cooking equipment with my name on it. We're our energy right now. I don't know if this is interesting. She likes camping, and I don't know if I like camping. If I have access to a wine bar, I do. But we're looking at some vintage trailers right now the last couple weeks, and we're going to look and we're going to purchase some kind of retro or vintage trailer. So there are people that have come up with new compact trailers. I would have a better chance of designing one of those than cooking equipment, in my opinion.
Like an Airstream?
Well, smaller than that. Smaller, yeah. But an
Okay.
Airstream, but like some of them are called teardrops. Some of them are called scamps.
Oh,
some
yeah.
are called casitas. Yes.
My son is insisting that I invest in a camper, so I know them well. He's pulled them all out, and
Right.
he's made a good sales pitch for me. So right now, these days, you're spending a fair amount of time entertaining on Instagram. You want to talk about
Yeah,
that?
the Instagram is fun. I always like to tell people, I just did an interview the other day with The Athletic, which is a subscription sports website publication. And I always say, I apologize to all my old fans that I'm not doing anything, but I'm happily retired. If something interesting comes up, I'll do it. Right now I'm doing Instagram, which people have responded to. I probably will write a book. People want me to do a podcast, but if David King has a podcast, everybody has a podcast.
There's not enough room.
Yeah,
not enough room for both of us.
Yeah. So, but I might do something one day. But yeah, most of the time I'm just having fun on Instagram.
You're having fun on Instagram. I was going to ask if you like to write, and if you did write something, what genre would you lean towards?
It would be something comedic, but if it was, I'll just tell you, my favorite sitcom is Frasier. My favorite sitcom of all time is Frasier.
Great one, great.
And
love Miles.
Yeah, and then movie-wise, it's all over the place. But you remember Sideways, that comedy?
Absolutely.
Drama.
Love
something
Sideways.
like that. I was never
Miles.
Yeah. I was never a huge fan of the R-rated comedies for the young people. So I preferred. I remember in college I liked a movie called Tootsie, and then I liked Sideways. And do you know The Graduate? Sometimes they describe as a comedy drama. That's kind of odd.
It's funny in the beginning, and then it just kind of becomes a little bit more cerebral / emotionally draining by the end. But it's an incredible movie, of course. Yeah.
I've had it in my top 5. In fact, David, I don't want to put you on the spot.
Please do.
What are your top 5 movies of all time as of now? And you can change that list later today when you talk to somebody else. You can tweak it. But right now, can you name
this?
Yes.
Instant. Yes. Well, all right. First off, there's this whole separate class of movies that are the top, that are my mob movies. The Godfather 2, Casino, Goodfellas. Outside of those, the great movies. I just saw Gone with the Wind the other night, and it's an incredible movie. And it's, probably I'll pat my back for watching something that's a classic, that much of a classic. But my favorite movies, it's funny you mentioned Sideways, because that's one of them. Sideways.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. I love Sideways. And I brought up Big Lebowski because that's a standard go-to movie. Little Miss Sunshine. Have you seen Little Miss Sunshine?
No.
Okay. Little Miss Sunshine is one of my all-time favorites. Fargo. Now, being from Minnesota, you must have got a little bit of Fargo somewhere
Well,
along the way.
when we moved there, my father said, "Don't talk like the locals," so I never got that
Yeah. Okay. But
accent.
you didn't, you also missed the movie too?
No, I saw it. I saw it years
Oh,
ago.
okay. Good. Yeah. Fargo is a great movie. And I probably wore it out, but I'd still have to put it towards the top would be Anchorman. It was a
Okay.
great movie. Yeah. But then I can't ignore all those other ones, The
That 5?
Goodfellas, The Godfather.
Is
Yeah,
that?
yeah. I hit 5 and then
Would you like
cheated
me to
and
give you my 5, David?
please,
It,
yes.
it, it moves around sometimes, but they're usually older movies. With all due respect to Anchorman, North by Northwest, Alfred Hitchcock. With all due respect to Little Miss Sunshine,
They're worthy of immense
Sunset
respect.
Boulevard,
Oh yeah. That's a good one.
Chinatown. Okay, was that 3?
Yes.
I'm only going to name one Hitchcock, even though I like so many of them. I also like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf because Richard Burton's amazing, but I'm not going to name that. I also like a movie called Beckett with Richard Burton and Peter O'Toole. What do I have? 3? Is that all I have
No,
right now?
no,
3?
you've hit all. I think you just went over the
Well, I was
6.
just saying I'm not going to name it, but anyway. But
Yeah.
you got North by Northwest. I do have The Graduate on my list. Chinatown, Sunset Boulevard, and I'll throw a comedy. I'll throw Tootsie in there for now, even though there are other ones that are better. But
Yeah.
how's that sound?
Small world. I just saw Tootsie the other night, and it's great to be able to put on a movie that I enjoy that I can let the kids watch.
Yep.
Because most of them, even if they're overall not, profane, there's still just parts that I'm like, uh-oh, we better pause here. And of course, that's what the kids want to see as much as anything else. But they were better just not long ago in our lifetime. They were better about just not having gratuitous sex and violence and that sort of thing. But anyway, Craig, I can't thank you enough and tell you how much I've enjoyed having you on. And anyway, I'm immensely proud that you joined me today, and be well. I wish you the best in what you do next, because I know there will be something, and I think there's a lot of people out there eager to know what your next venture will be, but whatever it will be successful.
Thank you, David. I had a pleasure, and we'll keep following each other on Instagram. You're the man. I really appreciate it.
Excellent. Okay. Well, you take care, and we'll see you all, the listeners, next time on Selling Your Business with David King.